That's a clown question, bro.
So I'm gonna kick some dirt.
He gets on base.
Just a bit outside.
I'm not the type of player that's going to be Johnny Hustle.
If you don't want me to watch the ball, you can go get it out of the ocean.
And welcome to the show to be named later. We're talking baseball, kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing well. We got a blast from the past today. I mean, literal power. I mean, we got one of the best power hitters of all time. We got the Bash Bros. We got the Athletics, the Philadelphia Athletics, and the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, we have some we have some power. We have some A's. Luckily I played for the A's in instructional league baseball when I was 6, and this actually isn't my hat, it's my dad's hat from when he was coaching. So in order to celebrate, we have that.
Yeah, this is a straight A's show.
Yeah, this is all A's, and part 1 is going to be featuring Jimmie Foxx, who definitely was a product of the 1920s, 1930s offensive surge.
Mm-hmm.
He had an unbelievable offensive numbers throughout his career in terms of all facets: average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, home runs, RBI. For anyone who's really into that, everything hitting, Jimmie Foxx was really, really good at. So I guess right. we start the Jimmie Foxx story, where he was born in Sudlersville, Maryland, and his father played baseball at a young age, and he instilled his love of baseball into young Jimmie Foxx. And according to family legends, Jimmie Foxx actually tried to run away to join the military at the age of 10 after hearing about his father's military exploits in the Civil War. Probably had some good, a good military background, being on that side from Maryland. And Jimmie's parents were successful farm tenants, and he worked many hours on the farm. And ultimately that gave him a pretty good physique, especially for athletic, a good athletic build. And with this physique, in school, he set a variety of local track records while he was in school. And the Eastern Shore League, which was a Class D minor league, brought a team to Easton, Maryland. And Frank Home Run Baker, who has been referenced previously on the show, one of the better names in baseball, Frank Home Run Baker, a Maryland native and the player manager of this Easton team in the Class D minor leagues, he actually caught wind of Jimmie Foxx's performance at Sudlersville High School, and he invited him for a tryout. And Foxx, as the farm boy that he is, actually came to the tryout in a pair of overalls, wondering, what else could he possibly wear? And he actually told Baker that he could catch for him if he needed him to for the team. And Foxx was ultimately signed by this team for a salary between $125 and $250 a month. And with the team, he hit .296 with 10 home runs. And then after this performance, it was decided that he was major league ready, and his contract was purchased by the Philadelphia Athletics. And after the 1924 season, where he played for the Eastern Shore League team, he would, of course, like a lot of professional baseball players do, return to school for his senior year of high school, because, of course, he was only 16 when he signed with the professional baseball team. However, he did not finish his senior year of high school, as he would go on to participate in spring training with the Philadelphia Athletics.
So now he's spending his teen years in professional baseball on the bench. By the way, that is a beautiful origin story of A1 Jimmie Foxx.
Yeah.
He made his major league debut on May 1st, 1925, at the age of 17 years and 191 days old. Chris, we're both much older than that, and looks like we're a little bit behind here. What Jimmie Foxx was doing 100 years ago, 95
Yeah,
years ago, actually.
I would
And he
agree.
singled in his first plate appearance, so that is a career 1,000 average. And he played 41 games in Double-A and hit 327, so he's doing pretty well for himself early on. And he appeared in 10 games for the Athletics as a reserve catcher and a pinch hitter, and he compiled 9 plate appearances. Probably should have had more because he went 6 for 9 with a double and a 1444 OPS. And minimum 3 plate appearances, which is, I mean, that's an incredible sample size. It is the oh, that is a wow. Minimum 3 plate appearances. It is the highest average OBP slugging and OPS in a season by a player in their age 17 or younger season. Of course, that is minimum. That is minimum 3 plate appearances. He played in 26 games in 1926. He went down though, which maybe because he had more than 3 plate appearances. He had a 771 OPS in 35 plate appearances, and he appeared in 61 games in 1927, compiled a 323 average and a 908 OPS in 147 plate appearances. So pretty good power surge for him in 1927, being able to spray the gaps more. So then he starts contributing to pennants and championships at the ripe age of 20 in 1928. So or was this 21 years old? I don't know. Anyway,
20,
he was
yeah.
he was young. He was young, and by May 12th, he made himself a starter at third base and first base. He finished 9th in average with a 328, 5th in OPS with a 964, 5th in OPS plus with a 148, while still playing 118 games and compiling 473 plate appearances. He also hit 330 with runners in scoring position, and he finished 7th in WAR on both websites.
That's correct. Both Baseball Reference and Fangraphs had him in the top 10 in WAR as he was a 20-year-old. And the Athletics went 98 and 55 and finished 2.5 games behind the first place Yankees during this season. And this was a pretty stacked team, filled with young talent who was ready to surge like Jimmie Foxx, and also some old talent, some legends. And the 1928 Athletics had eventual Hall of Famers Ty Cobb, Tris Speaker, Eddie Collins, Mickey Cochran, Al Simmons, and Lefty Grove, all on that 1928 team. Now, not all of them were at their best. Eddie Collins played a very minor role. He only got 36 plate appearances in 1928, and Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker retired after 1928. But still, Jimmie Foxx, Mickey Cochran, Al Simmons, and Lefty Grove were still playing in their best years, setting up for a good future for the Philadelphia Athletics. So in 1929, Jimmie Foxx became a regular starting first baseman, kind of claimed his spot as the first baseman of the Philadelphia Athletics. And he was doing unbelievable this year. Through July 2nd, he was hitting .413 with a 1200 OPS. And he was also hitting .400 as late as July 12th. And in his first 95 games, he reached base safely in 88 of those games. And that is the most amount of games that a player younger than 22 has reached base safely in their team's first 95 games.
How about that?
And in those first 95 games, the Philadelphia Athletics were doing just as well as Jimmie Foxx was. The Athletics went 70 and 25. Jimmie Foxx in 1929 ended up finishing 5th in average with a 354, 2nd in OPS with a 1088, 2nd in OPS plus with a 173, and 2nd in weighted runs created plus with a 176. He also hit 365 with runners in scoring position. And he also finished second in B-WAR and led the league in Fangraphs WAR. And with this 1929 season, he became the first player in their age 21 season or younger to hit 350 plus with 30 plus home runs in a season, and it has only been done once since then.
How about that?
And his on-base percentage and OPS are still the highest in a single season, with 250 plus plate appearances by a player in their age 21 season or younger.
How about that?
And the Philadelphia Athletics would end up going 104-46 and won the pennant by an 18-game margin, punching an easy ticket to the World Series. And in game 1 of the World Series, both the Cubs and the A's had yet to score when Jimmie Foxx came up to bat in the 7th. So Foxx promptly hit a solo home run to break the tie in a game that the A's would eventually win 3-1. So he broke the tie. The A's eventually won game 1. Foxx on the day was 2 for 4. And in game 2 of the World Series, both the Cubs and A's had yet to score when Jimmie Foxx came up to bat in the 3rd inning, this time with 2 men on and 2 men out. And Foxx promptly hit a 3-run home run to break the tie. And this was in a game that the A's would eventually win 9-3. So he hit the go-ahead home run in each of the first 2 A's victories in the 1929 World Series. Foxx would end up going 3 for 5 on the day in game 2. And Jimmie Foxx, with those 2 home runs, remains the only player younger than 25 in baseball history to hit a home run in each of his first 2 career postseason games.
How about that?
And unfortunately, in game 3 for the A's, both Jimmie Foxx and the rest of the lineup were silent in game 3 of the World Series in a 3-1 loss. And heading into the bottom of the 7th of game 4, the Philadelphia Athletics were down 8-0 to the Cubs, almost guaranteeing a loss. According to Baseball Reference, they had a 1% chance of winning at that point. So in the bottom of the 7th, Al Simmons hit a home run to lead off the inning, making it 8-1. Then Jimmie Foxx hit a single and then was moved to second on another single and then was driven in on another single to make it an 8-2 ball game, making it somewhat interesting. Then later in the inning, Foxx came up again with men on first and second in an 8-7 game, and Foxx hit a single to drive in the tying run. And the Athletics would score 2 more in that inning and win the game 10-8 after putting up a 10 spot in the bottom of the 7th. Unreal. Then in game 5 of the World Series, with a chance to clinch, the Philadelphia Athletics offense was silent all day, and they were down once again late in the game, this time 2-0, heading into the bottom of the 9th. Walt French of the Athletics struck out to lead off the inning. Then Max Bishop hit a single, followed up by a Mule Haas home run to tie up the ball game. Mickey Cochran grounded out to make it 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. And then Al Simmons doubled to bring up Jimmie Foxx, the hero of the 1929 World Series up to that point. But the Cubs did the smart thing, and they intentionally walked Jimmie Foxx. And then Bing Miller, the next hitter, singled to drive in Al Simmons to win the World Series and make Jimmie Foxx a World Series champion. And he definitely earned it, as he hit 350 with a 1081 OPS in that World Series. Very impressive for the 21-year-old.
So now in 1930, the Jimmie Foxx and the A's have a target on their backs. And 1930 holds the highest MLB season for average OBP and OPS, which is 296, 356, and 790 in the modern era. So 120 years of baseball, we've never seen a league-wide offensive surge quite like what we've seen in 1930. And Jimmie Foxx was very much a part of that. He hit 335 on the season. Normally that's good enough for a batting title. That's exactly what Tim Anderson hit in 2019, but Jimmie Foxx finished 14th in average. His 156 RBIs ranked third, and he hit 382 with runners in scoring position. He finished fourth in OPS with a 1066, fourth in OPS plus with a 161, and fourth in weighted runs created plus with 160. These are usually stats that lead the league. And he finished fifth in BWAR and fifth in FWAR. Him and Ted Williams are tied for the most seasons of 450 plus plate appearances and a 950 plus OPS before their age 22 season. They each have 3. He, Ted Williams, Mel Ott, Ty Cobb, and Mike Trout are tied for the most seasons of 450 plus plate appearances and an OPS plus of 145 or higher through their age 22 season, each with 3. And the Athletics that year, they went 102-52 and won the pennant once again. So Fox hit safely in each of the first 4 games of the World Series. The Athletics won 2 of them and lost 2. In Game 5 of the World Series, each team had yet to score heading into the top of the 9th. Then Mickey Cochran walked and Al Simmons popped up, bringing up Fox to play with 1 man on and 1 man out. And yet, of course, he hit a home run he hit a home run to give the A's the lead, and they would win 2-0 on Fox's heroics. And Fox went 1 for 3 with a walk in a 7-1 win in Game 6, and he would become a 2-time World Series champion back-to-back. In the World Series, he hit safely in all 6 games with a 333 average and a 1058 OPS. So he is at his best in early October. So now we move on to 1931. This was a bit of a setback season for Fox as he had knee and foot injuries throughout the season and was developing a sinus problem, which would be a reoccurring thing for him, unfortunately, for the rest of his life. But on the field, he finished 8th in OPS with a 947, 9th in OPS plus with a 140, and 9th in weighted runs created plus with 139. He hit 350 with runners in scoring position and finished 10th in FWAR. The Athletics went 107-45 and won the pennant by a 13.5 game margin. They had it all done away with 2 weeks left in the regular season. And then in Game 1 of the World Series, with the game tied 2-2, bases loaded in the third, Fox hit a 2-run single in a game where he went 2 for 4 and the A's won 6-2. In Game 2, he went 1 for 2 with 2 walks and a 2-0 loss. So obviously now it's tied 1-1. Game 3, he went 0 for 2 with 2 walks and a 5-2 loss. Pretty quiet at the plate, but was still getting his walks in. Game 4, he went 1 for 3 with a home run, an RBI, and a walk in a 3-0 win. So now it's tied 2-2. Game 5, 2 for 3 with a walk and a 5-1 loss. Game 6, 2 for 5 in an 8-1 win. And then in Game 7, he went quietly, going 0 for 4 in a 4-2 World Series loss. Fox as a whole hit 348 with a 946 OPS throughout the series. And he had 16 games where he reached base within those 3 World Series, and are the most in such games a player's ever reached base in a World Series before turning 24.
So Jimmie Foxx was making history pretty early on in his career, making an impression. It does help that he was able to, get to those World Series, but he was a big part of those World Series. He earned every single plate appearance in those World Series. And now we go into what we call the pennantless prime of Jimmie Foxx's career. And, we talked about how great his regular season stats were from, 1929 to 1931. But he's just kind of getting started. But unfortunately, the teams are not exactly keeping up with him. So in 1932, he has the season of his life. So through May 26th, he was hitting 446 with a 1417 OPS, also 15 home runs and 45 RBI. And his 15 home runs through the Athletics' first 35 games are the most home runs through a team's first 35 games by a player younger than 25 in baseball history.
How about that?
And heading into July 10th, Fox had 30 home runs and was on pace for 58, which was 2 off from Babe Ruth's single-season home run record. Then on July 10th, he went 6 for 9 with a walk, 3 home runs and 8 RBI in an 18-17 18-inning win. Fox had a go-ahead single, game-tying home run, go-ahead double, and a go-ahead home run, all at different points in this crazy whirlwind of a game. And he ended up with a 1.307 win probability added on the day, which was the highest win probability added in a game at the time and remains the 5th highest win probability added in a single game all time. It was a crazy whirlwind of a game, and Fox was the star of it. And after that game, he was on pace for 63 home runs, which would break that single season record. So there was excitement about Jimmie Foxx potentially breaking this 5-year-old record. And after game 1 of a doubleheader on July 27th, he was at 41 home runs and was on pace for 64. But unfortunately, in August, he injured his wrist and thumb in a household incident, and his power slowed him down just enough. He still was able to get home runs, but not quite at the pace that he was at. So he was still able to hit 17 home runs in his remaining 55 games, and he came up just 2 home runs short of that, of at least tying that single season home run record. He also finished second in average with a 364 average, and he led the league in runs scored with 151, home runs with 58, RBI with 169, slugging percentage with a 749, OPS with a 1218, OPS plus with a 207, and weighted runs created plus with a 198. He also hit 364 with runners in scoring position, so you can tell that he earned those RBIs. And Jimmie Foxx came within, as said before, those 58 home runs came within 2 of Babe Ruth's single season record. And Fox led the league in B WAR and F WAR. No one was within 2 F WAR of Jimmie Foxx in 1932. And his F WAR actually remains the 4th highest before a player's age 25 season in a single season. And his slugging percentage remains the 2nd highest before a player's age 25 season in a single qualified season. And Fox's 58 home runs remain the most in a single season before a player's age 26 season. And only one other man has hit over 360 with 50 plus home runs like Fox did in 1932. And that one man is actually Babe Ruth, who is the face of this era. And it is the only season in baseball history with a 360 plus average, 50 plus home runs, and 169 plus RBI. And it is the only season by a player before their age 25 season with a batting average of 360 or higher and 50 plus home runs. And it is the only season in baseball history with 50 plus home runs and 210 plus hits. And for historical reference, in 1931, the Major League Baseball indoctrinated our modern form of the Most Valuable Player Award. Previously, they had an award where, you could only win the award once. You could only win the MVP once. But now it had indoctrinated its modern form of the Most Valuable Player Award, where anyone could win it. And Fox won the award in 1932. And the Athletics, meanwhile, they went 94-60, but finished ultimately 13 games behind the Yankees for the pennant. And after the season, it got worse for the Athletics as Connie Mack realized he could not afford the team that he built anymore. That pretty much a dynasty from 1929 to 1931. He realized he couldn't really afford that team anymore, especially with the depression going on. And he sold Jimmy Dykes and Mule Haas, who were both 2+ win players in 1932. And most notably, he sold off Al Simmons, who was a future, at the time, a future Hall of Famer, now a Hall of Famer. And he would sell all three of those players for a total of $100,000. So then we go into 1933, where, interestingly enough, Chicago was celebrating its centennial with the Chicago World's Fair. So Chicago was founded in 1833. They were celebrating its 100th anniversary of being a city. And the mayor, Edward J. Kelly, approached the publisher of the Chicago Tribune for an idea for a major sporting event for this celebration. And the publisher eventually went to the sports editor, Arch Ward, and Ward proposed the idea for the quote unquote game of the century at Comiskey Field, the field of the Chicago White Sox, and it would be between the best players of the American League and the best players of the National League. And Major League Baseball also saw it as a good way to get attention on the game, because popularity had declined since the Great Depression had started. People really couldn't afford to go to baseball games at the same way they did during the Roaring '20s. And Arch Ward, the originator of this idea, actually thought it was a good idea to get fans involved. So ballots to vote for players in this game of the century were printed in 55 newspapers across the country. And Jimmie Foxx, ultimately, to get back to him, he was voted onto the team. However, he was a reserve. Lou Gehrig was voted as the starter at first base. The American League won this game of the century 4-2, but Fox did not get a plate appearance in this game. And the game of the century was intended to be a one-time event, but however, it was such a success that the MLB decided to do it annually and call it the All-Star Game. So there you have Jimmie Foxx playing in the first All-Star Game ever. Originally supposed to be a one-time event, oddly enough.
Glad it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, in the 1933 season, Jimmie Foxx wins the Triple Crown with a 356 average, 48 home runs, and 163 RBI. He also led the league in slugging with a 703, OPS with an 1153, OPS plus with 201, and weighted runs created plus with 189. He hit 357 with runners in scoring position, and he also led in WAR on both websites and on Fangraphs. No one was within 2 WAR of him. So he won his second consecutive MVP, becoming the first player ever to win multiple MVPs. With his 1932 and 1933 seasons, he remains the only player to have multiple seasons with 45 plus home runs and 200 plus hits before their age 26 season. He also remains the only player to have multiple seasons of 160 RBIs before their age 26 season. The Athletics went 79 and 72, and after the season, they traded 2 more Hall of Famers in Lefty Grove and Mickey Cochran. And Fox was also negotiated aggressively with Connie Mack for a pay raise, which he did eventually receive. So now we go into 1934, and he finished 7th in average with a 334, 2nd in OPS with an 1102, 2nd in OPS plus with 186, and 2nd in weighted runs created plus with a 171. He also led the league in walks with 111. He finished 3rd in BWAR and 2nd in FWAR. He finished 10th in the MVP vote, and Fox and Babe Ruth remained tied for the most qualified seasons with an 1100 plus OPS before their age 27 seasons. As for the Athletics, they were kind of skidding away. They went 68 and 82 and finished 5th in the American League.
So as the Philadelphia Athletics were starting to really show signs of not having a complete team, Jimmie Foxx started the 1935 season as the starting catcher, with the hole at the position of catcher too large after Mickey Cochran was let go. But after multiple injuries of other players, Jimmie Foxx returned to his rightful place of first base. Had a pretty good season, very good season, but for his standards, pretty good season. Finished third in average with a 346 average, led the league in home runs with 36, slugging with a 636, OPS with a 1096, OPS plus with a 182, and weighted runs created plus with 175. Led the league in all those categories. He finished third in B WAR and second in F WAR, and he finished 11th in the MVP vote. The Athletics, meanwhile, they won 10 less games from the previous year, which they were already well below 500. They went 58-91 and finished in last place in the American League. And luckily for Fox, after the season, he was traded to the Boston Red Sox for 2 players and $150,000. And Fox, as a result of getting traded to the Red Sox, saw a $7,000 boost in salary, which was good
So he
for
got what he
him,
wanted.
especially heading into the second half of his career. And in 1936, the highlight of his season was on June 16th when he actually hit a home run completely out of Comiskey Park. And also in 1936, the Baseball Hall of Fame announced it would be opening in 1939, and they wanted to begin voting in 1936. So they had the BBWAA write in 10 players from the 20th century, and they had a Veterans Committee write in 5 players from before the 20th century to induct into the Hall of Fame. And there was no one specifically on any ballot. You could write in any player. So active players were actually allowed. And Jimmie Foxx actually got 9.2% of the vote when he was just 28 years old, still in the league, getting Hall of Fame votes, which is pretty crazy.
I don't know what's more impressive, Jimmie Foxx getting Hall of Fame votes midway through his career at age 28, or Ryan Tepera getting MVP votes.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's
Now, but you can't blame that on a misclick because there weren't clicks back then at all.
Yeah, and there were
I accidentally wrote the wrong name. Sorry.
Yeah, there were
Maybe you checked the wrong box.
Yeah, I don't know.
There weren't any boxes either.
You just wrote in, and I guess people believed that Jimmie Foxx should have been a Hall of Famer already at the age of 28, and I can't really blame them. And
yeah,
ultimately, in the 1936 season, Jimmie Foxx hit 338 with a 1071 OPS. He hit 345 with the runners in scoring position, and he finished second in OPS, fourth in OPS plus with a 155, third in weighted runs created plus with 150, and he finished seventh in B WAR and fifth in F WAR, and he would end up finishing 11th in the MVP vote.
Mm-hmm. So the voting in of active players for the Hall of Fame was highly discouraged in 1937. So he did not receive any votes that year, which is a shame because that would have been awesome. But in the 1937 season, the sinus problems that developed in 1931 became severe enough to provide a decline in performance for his season. And he had the worst offensive season in his career. He had the lowest average slugging OPS, OPS plus, weighted runs created plus, B WAR, and F WAR in his career for a qualified season. But he still finished 10th in OPS with a 929 and tied for 9th in weighted runs created plus with a 125. He also hit 310 with runners in scoring position. And Fox had the most RBI before an age 30 season.
How about that?
Yeah, most career runs batted in before turning 30, basically for Jimmie Foxx. And Jimmie Foxx actually has a big time bounce back season in 1938. He led the league in 1938, led the league in the entire slash line. He slashed 349, 462, 704 for an 1166 OPS. Led the league in all those categories. Also led the league in OPS plus with 183 and weighted runs created plus with 173. Also walks with 119 and runs batted in with 175. And the reason he was able to get so many RBI, he hit 399 with a 1398 OPS with runners in scoring position. He also led the league in B WAR and F WAR, obviously. and he won his third Most Valuable Player award, becoming the first player ever with 3 Most Valuable Player awards. And those 175 RBI that that Jimmie Foxx was able to drive in, those remain the 4th most ever in a single season. It is also his 1938 season is also the only season in baseball history with a 460 plus on base percentage and a 175 plus runs batted in. And also that was his 10th consecutive season with 30 plus home runs and 115 plus RBI. And those are the most such seasons through the age 30 season in baseball history.
How about that?
So now Jimmie Foxx is about to close up the 30s with his 1939 campaign. And this year, Ted Williams started with the Red Sox. And that was when Williams began to look at Foxx as a mentor and a father figure. And Foxx finished second in average with a 360. He led the league in home runs with 5, OP with 464, slugging with a 694, OPS with an 1158, OPS plus with a 188, and weighted runs created plus with a 181. He finished tied for second in B-WAR. He actually tied with Ted Williams, and he finished second in F-WAR, and he finished second in the MVP vote that season.
So that wraps up Jimmie Foxx's prime, you would say, a glorious 8-year stretch from
Not a bad one.
Yeah, glorious 8-year stretch from 1932 to 1939. In these 8 seasons, he averaged a 341 average, an 1111 OPS, 178 OPS plus, 170 weighted runs created plus, 44 home runs, and 141 RBI. That was his average season in this 8-year stretch. Also from 1932 to 1939, he led the league in runs scored, RBI, home runs, walks, B-WAR, and F-WAR, led all of baseball in all those categories in that 8-year stretch. So now we head into the next 2 years of his career where he's very good, but he's clearly showing signs of age. You know, most guys heading into their mid-30s, they're not looking too bad, but because Foxx had been playing Major League Baseball for so long, it had to come at some point. And in 1940, as we head into 1940, on September 4th of 1940, he hit his 499th career home run. However, in his next 14 games after that, he hit 157 with a 455 OPS and no home runs. And then on September 24th, in the first game of a doubleheader at Shibe Park against the Philadelphia Athletics, his former team, it was 8-3 in the top of the 6th. Dom DiMaggio led off the inning with a triple. Then Doc Kramer drove him in on a sacrifice fly to make it 9-3. The next batter, Ted Williams, hit his 53rd career home run to make it 10-3. Following him, Jimmie Foxx came up, 1 for 3 on the day. And finally, Jimmie Foxx hit his 500th career home run to make it 11-3. And he also became the second man ever to hit 500 home runs. And the batter after Foxx, Joe Cronin, hit a home run of his own to make it 12-3. And the batter after that, Bobby Doerr, hit a triple, and he advanced to home on an error from the first baseman on that same play to make it 13-3. And then the batter after that, Jim Tabor, hit a home run to make it 14-3. So there was a ton of scoring, and Jimmie Foxx's 500th home run
Got squeaked in
seemed
there.
to just get muddled right in between there. I'd like to see what that inning looked like with
Yeah, imagine like if Barry Bonds hit 756, and then right after that, like I don't know, Jeff Kent homered right after him. I don't know if he was still on the Giants then, but you get the idea. Probably
Yeah.
not. No, he definitely wouldn't have been there. 07.
But yeah, the point is, yeah, like imagine if his home run just happened during like a 7-run inning where the team scored on like 5 consecutive plays. Wild turn of events for Jimmie Foxx's 500th home run. And during the
Certainly.
1940 season, he hit 297 with a 993 OPS. That season, he finished 5th in OPS with 993, 4th in OPS plus with 150, and 4th in weighted runs created plus with 147. He also finished 9th in B WAR and 8th in F WAR, and he finished 6th in the MVP vote. And his 12 seasons with 30 plus home runs and 105 plus RBI, his 12 seasons with 30 plus home runs and 105 plus RBI are the most such seasons before the age 33 season in baseball history.
How about that?
Most such seasons before the age 33 season. Jimmie Foxx was getting it done early.
Yeah, it was. So now we move on to 1941. With the Red Sox, Jimmie Foxx definitely wouldn't be the most recognized player on this team, but his average did raise by 3 points. His OBP stayed the same, but his slugging dropped 76 points, and he had 17 less home runs than he did in 1940. However, he still had a 917 OPS that finished 7th, 8th in OPS plus with 139, and tied for 8th in weighted runs created plus with 36. His 13 seasons of 105 plus RBIs are the most such seasons before turning 34 in baseball history. His 14 qualified seasons with a 900 plus OPS are the most such seasons before turning the age of 34 in baseball history. So now Jimmie Foxx is in and out of the game between 1942 and 45. In 42, before the season started, Fox was informed he would be battling for the first base job with up-and-comer named Tony Lupian. Is that how to pronounce it? I think
Yeah.
so. And despite breaking his toe in spring training, Fox still won the job, but a freak batting practice incident gave him a broken rib 34 games into the Red Sox season. And about a week later, he was put on waivers because of one injury and was eventually sold off to the Chicago Cubs for $10,000. And with Boston, he hit 270 with an 852 OPS in 30 games. But with the Cubs, he hit 205 with a 570 OPS in 70 games. And overall, it was a 226 average with a 664 OPS in 348 plate appearances. So obviously the worst season of his to date. And even though he only had 33 RBI that year, it was still the most career RBI before turning 35 out of anyone in baseball history.
So after the 1942 season, which was, especially by Fox's standards, a disaster, to say the least, after the season, he announced his retirement, and he started to kind of begin a new life. And in 1943, he began his second marriage, and in 1944, he volunteered for the military as the U.S. was in World War II, but he was rejected because of this sinus condition that he had. And he eventually came back to baseball late into the 1944 season, where he was a player coach for the Chicago Cubs, the team that he was on in 1942. And for the Cubs, he went 1 for 20 with 2 walks and a double. And after 1944, he came back to Philadelphia, this time with the Phillies, as rosters from all MLB teams had been dwindled due to the war, and Fox could not go to the war, so he could play baseball.
So now Jimmie Foxx is in his swan song of 1945 with the Philadelphia Phillies. He played 89 games and started 50 of them, and he put together a 268 average, 756 OPS, 113 OPS plus, and 109 weighted runs created plus. He was also willing to help out the Phillies anywhere they needed, so they asked him to pitch at times, and he did. He appeared in 9 games as a pitcher and threw 22 and 2/3 innings pitched and put up a 1.59 ERA. He was really good as a pitcher, especially at that age. And after the season, he retired for good. So, hey, we could have seen the next coming of Babe Ruth in 1945.
Yeah, oddly enough. I mean, I was looking at the season. His peripherals weren't great. He had a 3.64 FIP, but I mean, the guy was able to prevent runs.
Yeah,
as a
that's all you need in
37-year-old.
1945.
Yeah, and yeah, as a 37-year-old, as a guy who played first base his entire career, very, very good, very impressive. He could have been one of the the next coming of Babe Ruth, but I guess teams didn't want that. He was fine. He was fine as just first baseman though. So now we're in his post career, which is honestly kind of sad, honestly for Jimmie Foxx. So divorced from his first marriage and a failed investment in a Florida golf course that closed down due to war restrictions, that damaged Fox's finances. A divorce,
That's not wins above replacement we're talking about. That's real war.
yeah, World War II,
Hmm.
when the U.S. was fighting many different countries, and the country was on some new laws, different laws. So some golf courses were restricted for whatever reasons. And Fox went into the Red Sox radio booth in 1946 for a job, but his Maryland accent did not mix well with the audience, and he did not continue with that. And because of his fast rise in baseball and lack of schooling and regular life experience outside of baseball, because you're thinking Jimmie Foxx, he was signed to a professional team at 16 years old. He doesn't really know life outside of playing baseball. So Fox struggled to find steady work after his career. He was a minor league manager in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1947, and he was also a minor league manager in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1949. And because he shared Hall of Fame ballots with many different players throughout baseball history who had been retired and been on ballots since 1936, writers were not as quick to put Fox into the Hall of Fame. And he was not alone. Many other eventual Hall of Famers from this era had this fate. Historically, there were a lot of first ballot worthy guys that didn't get on till like their fifth or sixth ballot, oddly enough. So Fox earned 6.2% of the vote in 1947, 41.3% of the vote in 1948, 55.6% in 1949, 61.3% in 1950, and then 79.2% in 1951, which eventually inducted him into his rightful place in the Hall of Fame. And then in 1952, Jimmie Foxx managed the Fort Wayne Daisies, which were a team in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And he stopped after one season because he did not like the long bus rides that league provided. And yeah, you can understand that, especially 1950s travel in a low budget league, you would understand. And after that season, he drifted from job to job as a car salesman, working for an oil company, and then working as a coal truck driver. And he also did some public service for inner city kids during these years. Eventually, he went back to Florida in 1956 and spent 2 years as a head baseball coach for University of Miami. And then I guess when that season ended, he was also a hitting instructor for a minor league team called the Miami Marlins. So I guess we kind of know the origins of that expansion name. And Fox would eventually be let go of both positions after working for them for 2 years. This was after 1957. And when he was invited to speak at the Boston Writers' Dinner in January 1958, he admitted he did not have enough money to get there and said his earnings from baseball were now all gone. And after this was public knowledge, he was offered multiple avenues for employment, and he actually got a job as a hitting instructor for the Red Sox AAA team, the Minneapolis Millers. And he was released from the job after 1 year, and it was stated publicly that it was because the Millers wanted someone who could coach and play for that job. However, this was not the real reason. The real reason was Jimmie Foxx had developed a drinking problem that made him sort of ineffective at his job and hurt the team more than he helped. And this would be his last baseball job. And he would mostly be out of the limelight for the rest of his life. He'd be at some old timers games, and he was interviewed after Willie Mays passed him in home runs, which no one had passed him since he retired, but Willie Mays eventually surpassed him, and he was pretty he was happy that it was a right-handed hitter. He was very nice to the fact that he was surpassed by Mays. And on July 21st, 1967, he collapsed of what appeared to be a heart attack, as he had multiple minor heart issues before, but it was actually him choking to death, and he would be pronounced dead at the age of 59. But the post career and how it ended up should not take anything away from what he
Depressing.
was able to do on the field ultimately. And in his all-time ranks, he is 23rd in walks, 22nd in total bases, 19th in extra base hits, 19th in home runs with 534, 10th in RBI, and 5th all-time in OPS with a 1038 OPS. And he is also 28th all-time in position player B WAR and 20th in position player F WAR. And the legacy of Jimmie Foxx is he was one of the original right-handed power hitters. And also, he did spectacular things at a very young age. He was, he was part of a big athletics sort of peak in the late 20s, early 30s, where, they won 3 consecutive pennants. He was a big part of all 3 of them. And, he won, pretty well into his career. He won an MVP. However, it was still before he turned 25. He was doing things at at an age where a lot of guys weren't doing those sort of things. And he was also ultimately a very good postseason performer. He was a big reason why the A's were able to win those 2 World Series in 1929 and 1930. His postseason OPS, his career postseason OPS is 1034, right up there with his regular season greatness, as the great ones do. Just as good in the postseason as they are in the regular season, if not better. So yeah, that's the legacy of Jimmie Foxx ultimately. Just one of the great hitters of all time, and has always been remembered as such.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly with one of the original right-handed power hitters. I think that is the perfect legacy for him. I mean, comes up, becomes the second player to hit 500 home runs, obviously second to Babe Ruth, who was a lefty. But yeah, I mean, he was known as a guy who was one of the original power hitters, right-handed. Also came up very early and just did it right from the start. I mean, singled in his first AB, minimum 3 plate appearances, the best season for 17 or younger ever. Like he hit the ground running, it just didn't stop until his body broke down enough for him to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmie Foxx. I mean, I don't think he's really forgotten in history, and I'm glad
No.
that's the case. Um, had a great peak, great everything great about the guy, and glad we were able to shed some light on him. So I guess that leads to the conclusion of this part of the episode, part 1 of episode 72. We hope you enjoyed watching. First of all, we would like to thank Baseball Reference, Fangraphs, StatHead, and Society of American Baseball Research, especially for making this, for giving us the
This is a big
information
saver show.
to make this show possible. Also, if you we know that we didn't have any videos for this episode, as Jimmie Foxx played from 1925 to 1945. But if you want to watch the show, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch us talk, go to our YouTube channel. It is called STBNL with Chris Gianta and Daniel Curran. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at STBNL Podcast. So we hope you enjoyed part 1 of episode 72, and we hope to see you tomorrow, where we will be talking about the 1989 Oakland Athletics. See you then.